All right, Habit fans, get ready because today we are diving deep
Deep.
into James Clear's Atomic Habits.
That's right.
We're going to go way past those surface level tips and tricks
Yeah.
and really unearth like the core principles that can like revolutionize your approach to building habits and reaching your goals.
Yeah. And what I think is so fascinating about Clear's book is that he really manages to merge science with practical strategies.
Totally.
So we're not just exploring, the what, but also the why behind his powerful framework.
For sure. And speaking of frameworks, Clear actually kicks things off
Yeah.
with a pretty compelling personal anecdote about his recovery from a pretty serious baseball injury.
Right.
And he credits this comeback
His comeback. Yeah.
not to some grand overnight transformation,
Yeah.
but to these tiny little habit improvements that he made along the way.
And I think this highlights a fundamental principle that Clear emphasizes throughout the book, which
Yeah.
is the power of compounding.
Oh, I like that.
It's like money multiplies with interest.
Mm.
Small improvements, those like 1% changes, they accumulate over time
Right.
and yield remarkable results in the long run.
That totally reminds me of the British cycling team's incredible transformation.
Yeah,
You know, they went from being these complete underdogs to like dominating the sport.
right.
And they did it by optimizing every single aspect of their performance, even down to the pillows their athletes slept on.
That's right. And what's so fascinating about that is that these seemingly insignificant tweaks
Yeah.
created this ripple effect,
Wow.
impacting not just their physical performance, but
Yeah.
also their mindset.
Interesting.
Each small win fueled their belief in the process,
Mm.
ultimately propelling them to victory.
It's so cool because it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Like what could you achieve if
Mm.
you applied this principle to your own life? Like
So right.
imagine improving just 1% each day in an area you're passionate about.
Right.
The long-term impact could be substantial, right?
Absolutely. However, Clear argues that fixating solely on goals can actually be a trap.
Really?
He suggests shifting our focus to building systems instead.
Okay, now that's interesting to me
Yeah,
because it seems kind of counterintuitive to downplay goals, you know,
I understand what you mean.
because we're always told like set goals, right?
Right. Goals provide direction, absolutely,
Yeah.
but they're ultimately fleeting.
Okay.
Systems, on the other hand, are the processes that drive consistent progress.
Gotcha.
Think of it this way. A goal is like wanting to run a marathon.
Okay.
But a system is the training plan, the nutrition regimen, the rest days, all the elements that actually get you to the finish line.
Okay, so it's like creating an infrastructure for success rather than just aiming for this like distant target.
Precisely. And systems automate positive behaviors,
Oh, that's a good point.
making them less reliant on willpower or motivation,
Right,
which, as we all know, can fluctuate.
for sure.
This is where the book's framework, the 4 laws of behavior change, comes into play.
Yes, the four law. Everybody loves the four laws.
Yeah.
Make it obvious.
Yeah.
Make it attractive. Make it easy, and make it satisfying.
It's a brilliant recipe indeed.
Yeah, it's like a recipe for habit formation.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the first law, make it obvious, it tackles the often unconscious nature of our habits.
Right.
It's about bringing awareness to our autopilot behaviors.
You know, I love the idea of a habit scorecard
Yes.
that Clear suggests, like
Yes.
where you list all your daily habits, good and bad,
Yeah.
and it's amazing what you discover about your own patterns.
It's about shedding light on those subconscious routines.
Totally.
And once you're aware, you can start tweaking your environment to make desired cues more prominent and undesirable ones less so.
Like that really quirky example in the book about the fly sticker in the urinal.
Oh, yes.
Improved aim and reduced spillage. I mean,
Right.
sometimes a little nudge is all it takes.
Exactly. Small changes can yield surprisingly significant outcomes.
Totally.
Another powerful tactic within this law is implementation intentions.
Okay.
It's about creating if-then plans for your habits.
I see.
For example, if it's 8 a.m., then I'll spend 15 minutes reading.
Right.
This pre-planning helps bypass decision fatigue and fosters automatic action.
I've personally found habit stacking to be incredibly useful.
Yes.
You know, where you piggyback a new habit onto an existing one?
Yes.
For instance, after I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 5 minutes.
Right.
It seamlessly integrates the new behavior into your daily routine.
Leveraging existing routines is incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second law.
Yeah.
Make it attractive.
Okay.
This taps into the reward system of our brains.
Uh-huh.
We gravitate toward things that bring pleasure.
Makes sense.
Right.
So this is where we get to be a bit playful, right? Like temptation bundling.
Yes.
It's all about pairing something you need to do
Right.
with something you genuinely enjoy. It's like
Yes.
that guy who hacked his stationary bike
Oh, yeah.
to only play Netflix
Yeah.
when he was pedaling at a certain speed.
Yeah.
Talk about making exercise enticing.
It's a clever way to harness our inherent desire for gratification.
Yeah.
Think about how video games keep players hooked with unpredictable rewards and variable reinforcement schedules.
Oh, that's so true.
We can apply similar principles to make our habits more appealing.
So it's like adding a sprinkle of fun to the mix instead
Yeah.
of viewing habits as chores.
Exactly.
We can find ways to infuse them with enjoyment.
Yes.
How can we use this principle in everyday life?
One approach is creating a motivation ritual to amp up your enthusiasm
I like that.
before tackling a less desirable habit.
Okay.
This could be listening to your favorite upbeat song,
Right.
lighting a scented candle, or anything that triggers positive feelings for you.
Got it.
The key is to associate the habit with something you genuinely enjoy.
Okay, so we've covered make it obvious and make it attractive.
Right.
Yeah, I'm ready to dive into the next law.
Yeah.
But before we do,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about your personal experience with these principles.
Oh, yeah.
Like, have you found them effective in your own life?
Absolutely. I have.
Let's
I've
get-
integrated these principles into my own routine, and it's made a noticeable difference.
Awesome.
But let's get back to the book.
Okay.
The third law, make it easy, addresses our inherent inclination towards the path of least resistance.
So it's all about minimizing friction, right?
Yeah. Making the desired behavior as effortless as possible,
Okay.
we're more likely to repeat actions that require minimal effort.
Right.
Clear introduces the 2-minute rule, which is a game changer, essentially.
Yeah.
You break down any new habit
Uh-huh.
into a 2-minute version.
Okay.
Instead of aiming for a 30-minute workout,
Yeah.
you just focus on putting on your workout clothes.
So you basically trick your brain into getting started
Exactly.
with a tiny manageable step.
Yes.
It seems almost too simple to work. Does it actually work?
It is surprisingly effective.
Really?
By reducing that initial barrier to entry, you create momentum.
I see.
And once you've taken that first step, it becomes easier to continue.
I can see how that would shift your mindset
Yeah,
from feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered.
right.
What about like those times when, the initial enthusiasm wanes?
Yeah.
Like, how do we maintain motivation over the long haul?
That's where the fourth law, make it satisfying, comes into play.
Okay,
Our brains are wired to seek rewards.
that's true.
Even small rewards can reinforce a behavior, making us more likely to repeat it.
This one really resonates with me because I find that
Yeah.
tracking my progress, even in a simple way, gives me a sense of accomplishment. And
Yes.
it keeps me motivated.
Tracking is incredibly powerful.
Yeah,
Clear is a big advocate for it.
makes sense.
Whether it's using a habit tracker app, a journal, or just marking off days on a calendar,
Yeah.
visually seeing your progress can be incredibly rewarding.
It's almost like gamifying your habits,
Right?
like turning them into a challenge that you want to win.
Exactly. And it reinforces that connection between the action and the positive feeling, making it more likely you'll stick with it.
But how do we ensure that we're tracking the right metrics?
That's a great point.
Because sometimes it's easy to get caught up
Yes.
in like focusing on outcomes rather than the process.
Right. Clear emphasizes the importance of tracking actions, not just results.
Oh.
For example, instead of obsessing over weight loss,
Right.
focus on tracking your workouts and healthy meals.
Mm-hmm.
The results will follow.
It's a subtle shift in perspective,
Yes.
but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off the outcome and allows you to focus on building consistent habits.
Exactly. Celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about showing up consistently and making progress.
I like that.
Clear even suggests incorporating a habit contract.
A habit contract.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a formal agreement
Oh, okay.
you make with yourself or with an accountability partner.
Okay.
You outline your commitment to a specific habit and the consequences of not following through.
So it's like adding a layer of external motivation to support your internal commitment.
Yes, it's a way to raise the stakes and make your goals more tangible.
I like it.
You know,
These 4 laws are such a fantastic foundation for building better habits.
right.
I think what I appreciate about Clear's approach is that he goes beyond the basics.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
acknowledges that the journey of habit formation isn't always linear,
Yeah.
and he offers strategies for overcoming challenges.
Right, and he delves into some fascinating advanced tactics for optimizing your habits.
Ooh,
One that particularly stood out to me is the Goldilocks rule.
intriguing. Does
Yeah.
this have anything to do with porridge and bears?
Well, sort of, Remember how Goldilocks wanted everything to be just right?
Uh-huh.
This rule suggests that the key to sustained motivation is finding the sweet spot of challenge.
So it's about finding tasks that are engaging but not overwhelming.
Yes, if a task is too easy, we get bored. If it's too hard, we get discouraged.
Makes sense.
But if it's challenging enough to stretch our abilities without causing undue stress, yeah.
We enter a state of flow.
Flow state. That magical feeling of being completely absorbed in an activity
Right?
where time seems to disappear.
Yeah.
It's incredibly productive and deeply satisfying.
And it's something that we can cultivate through our habits.
That's cool.
Clear suggests gradually increasing the difficulty of a habit over time,
Okay.
ensuring that you're continuously challenged but not overwhelmed.
This reminds me of the concept of progressive overload
Yes.
in weight training, where you gradually increase the weight or resistance
Exactly.
as your muscles get stronger.
It's about finding that balance between pushing your boundaries and staying within your capacity.
But doesn't that require a certain degree of self-awareness?
That's a great question.
Like, how do you determine that sweet spot for yourself?
Clear emphasizes the importance of reflection and review.
Okay.
He suggests regularly assessing your habits, noticing what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
It's about being attuned to your own internal feedback system. So it's a continuous process of experimentation and adjustment.
Precisely. And he reminds us that even with good habits, there's a risk of complacency.
Oh, that's interesting.
We can get so focused on executing the habit that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
So even with positive routines, it's important to periodically step back
Yes.
and evaluate their effectiveness and relevance.
Absolutely. He shares the example of the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1980s.
Oh, wow.
Despite having immense talent, they weren't reaching their full potential.
Yeah.
Their coach, Pat Riley, introduced a system called Career Best Effort,
Okay.
where each player focused on improving their performance by just 1% each day.
And this seemingly small shift in mindset
Yeah.
led to significant improvements.
It helped them stay focused, avoid complacency, and ultimately achieve greater success.
Wow.
The takeaway is that even with established habits, there's always room for optimization and growth.
That's a great reminder because it's so easy to fall into the trap of autopilot, even with good habits.
And it's important to remember that our habits are influenced by a complex interplay of factors, including our genetics.
Mhm.
Clear acknowledges that our genes do play a role
Oh, interesting.
in shaping our predispositions.
So the nature versus nurture debate.
To some extent, yes, but Clear emphasizes that our genes don't determine our destiny.
Okay.
They provide a blueprint,
Yeah.
but our habits are the architects that shape our lives.
So we have a degree of agency
Yes.
in shaping our own outcomes, regardless of our genetic inheritance.
Absolutely. Clear encourages us to explore different options, experiment with various habits, and discover what works best for us as individuals.
This resonates with the idea of personalized medicine,
Yeah.
where treatments are tailored to an individual's unique genetic makeup.
It's a similar concept applied to habit formation.
Cool.
What works for one person may not work for another.
Right.
The key is to find what resonates with you and aligns with your goals.
It's about embracing our individuality and honoring our own unique path. I love that. What else resonated with you from the Beyond the Basics section of the book?
Clear delves into the fascinating distinction between wanting and liking. He highlights that we often crave things we don't necessarily enjoy.
That's so true. Think about cravings for sugary snacks or mindless scrolling on social media.
Yes.
In the moment, they seem appealing, but afterwards, we often feel worse.
Exactly. He suggests reframing our thinking about habits. Instead of focusing on what we have to do, we should focus on what we get to do.
Can you give an example of that?
Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym,
Right.
you could say, I get to move my body and improve my health.
Okay.
It's a subtle shift in language, but a profound shift in perspective.
It's about finding the positive aspects of the habit and emphasizing the benefits.
Precisely, it's about tapping into intrinsic motivation rather than relying solely on external rewards or pressure.
This all ties back to the idea of identity that Clear emphasizes.
Yes.
Our habits shape our identity, and our identity shapes our habits.
It's a powerful cycle.
For sure.
The more we act in alignment with the person we want to be, the stronger that identity becomes.
I see.
If we want to be healthier, we make choices that support a healthy identity. If we want to be more creative, we engage in habits that cultivate creativity.
So it's about aligning our actions with our aspirations.
Clear offers a simple two-step process for changing our identity.
Okay.
First, decide the type of person you want to be. Second, prove it to yourself with small wins.
It's about taking those small steps that reinforce the desired identity.
And it's about remembering that it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Right.
As Clear says, it doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is simply to win the majority of the time.
That's such a liberating thought. It takes the pressure off
Yeah.
and allows us to be more forgiving of ourselves.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference over time. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations.
This deep dive has been incredible. Thank you for sharing your insights and for breaking down these key takeaways from Atomic Habits. I think for me, the most compelling aspect of Atomic Habits is this idea that tiny changes consistently applied can lead to like remarkable transformations.
Yeah.
That it's a message of empowerment. We're not at the mercy of our circumstances. We have the power to shape our lives through deliberate action.
And it's not about seeking some magic bullet.
Right.
Or overnight success.
Yeah.
It's about the commitment
Yeah.
to showing up each day and making those small choices that move us closer to the people we want to be.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Precisely, and that requires patience and self-compassion.
Totally.
There will inevitably be setbacks and plateaus along the way.
Of course.
The key is to view these as opportunities for learning and adjustment,
Right.
rather than as reasons to give up.
It's about embracing the journey with all its imperfections.
Exactly. Clear emphasizes the importance of reflection and review. He suggests doing a yearly review. Oh, interesting.
Where you look back on your accomplishments and identify areas for growth.
I like that.
It's a chance to celebrate your wins and glean insights from your challenges.
So it's like taking inventory of your habits
Yeah.
and making adjustments as needed.
And remember, it's not just about celebrating successes.
Yeah.
It's also about learning from those stumbles.
Yeah.
Failure is not the opposite of success.
Yeah.
It's a stepping stone.
It's all part of the process.
One of the most profound concepts in the book is this idea that our habits shape our identity, and our identity shapes our habits.
Oh, it's a fascinating feedback loop.
The more we act in alignment with the person we want to be, the stronger that identity becomes.
Okay.
If we want to be healthier, we make choices that support a healthy identity. If we want to be more creative, we engage in habits that cultivate creativity.
So it's about aligning our actions with our aspirations.
Clear offers a simple two-step process for changing our identity.
Okay, what is it?
First, decide the type of person you want to be.
Second, prove it to yourself with small wins.
So it's about taking those small steps that reinforce the desired identity.
And it's about remembering that it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Yeah.
As Clear says, it doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior or an unproductive habit. Your goal is simply to win the majority of the time.
It's such a liberating thought.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off and allows us to be more forgiving of ourselves.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference over time. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Right.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights
You're welcome.
and for breaking down these key takeaways from Atomic Habits.
It's been a pleasure exploring this transformative work with you.
Likewise.
And for those listening, I encourage you to pick up a copy of Atomic Habits and embark on your own journey of self-improvement, one small habit at a time.
And remember, you can find more resources, including printable cheat sheets, at atomichabits.com. Happy habits.